The sound of laughter floated down the corridor of the hotel. It was soft at first, the kind of laughter that made you pause and smile. But to Amora, standing in her white satin robe, that laughter struck like lightning. Her hands trembled as she held the door handle of room 207, her groom's room. She had only come to drop a surprise note and his favorite snack, roasted groundnuts wrapped neatly in paper, just as he liked it since their university days. But now, hearing that familiar voice mixed with another, her younger sister Chika's voice, her heart began to beat faster. At first, she smiled. Maybe they're rehearsing something for tomorrow, she thought. Chika was always dramatic, maybe they were planning a funny dance for the wedding. Then she heard a whisper. A whisper that froze her blood. Promise me, Ifeanyi, Chika said softly, even after tomorrow, you won't stop loving me. There was silence. Then came the voice Amora knew better than her own heartbeat. I can't promise that, Ifeanyi replied, his tone thick with emotion. I love her, but you. Amora didn't wait for the rest. Her hand twisted the knob and the door flew open. The light from the hallway poured into the room, revealing what no bride should ever see, her groom, shirtless, sitting on the edge of the bed, and her sister, her own blood, wrapped in nothing but a towel, tears glistening in her eyes. No one spoke. The air stood still. The groundnut slipped from Amora's hand and scattered across the tiled floor. If this is a joke, she stammered, it's not funny. But no one laughed. She turned and ran, barefoot, robe flying behind her, heart breaking with every step. And the next day, at the altar, when the music stopped and the priest asked her, do you, Amora, take this man? Everyone leaned forward, waiting for her answer, and what she did next shocked the entire village of Umubi. It all began months before that night in the small town of Umubi, where neighbors knew each other's secrets before the sun rose. Amora, the eldest of 3 sisters, was known as the Calm River. She worked as a schoolteacher at St. Mary's Primary, teaching children who adored her. Her mother, Mama Uju, often said, Amora was born with peace in her hands. Then there was Chika, the opposite of calm. Wild, beautiful, and full of mischief. She was the kind of girl who could talk her way out of any trouble and dance her way into any heart. When Amora got engaged to Ifeanyi, a hardworking mechanic who had returned from Lagos to start his own auto business, the whole family rejoiced. Ifeanyi was tall, handsome, and soft-spoken. He built his reputation fixing cars for half the village, refusing extra pay when he knew someone couldn't afford it. He was the kind of man mothers prayed for their daughters to marry. But the first time Chika met him, something in her eyes changed, a flicker that only Mama Uju noticed. From that day, whenever Amora and Ifeanyi came visiting, Chika was always there, laughing a little louder, smiling a little wider, finding reasons to stay in the room when she should have left. Amora noticed, too, but she brushed it off. She's just being her usual playful self, she told herself. Until one evening, about 3 weeks before the wedding, when she saw something that made her chest tighten. Amora had stopped by Ifeanyi's workshop after school. She found Chika sitting on an old car bonnet, swinging her legs and feeding Ifeanyi puff-puff from a brown paper bag. The scene looked innocent, too innocent to be comfortable. I didn't know you two were meeting here, Amora said lightly, forcing a smile. Oh. Chika laughed, brushing crumbs off her dress. I was just passing by. I brought puff-puff for everyone. But there was no one else around. Later that night, as they shared a room in their mother's house, Amora asked softly, Chika, is there something you want to tell me? Chika turned over, pretending to be sleepy. What do you mean? Amora sighed. Never mind. But deep down, a quiet fear began to grow, one she refused to water with suspicion. As the wedding day drew near, the whole town buzzed with excitement. Aunties came from faraway villages, uncles brought goats and bags of rice. The church choir rehearsed late into the night. Even Chika seemed to be everywhere, choosing decorations, picking Amora's jewelry, singing loudly while helping with food. Mama Uju kept saying, "You girls make me proud. Tomorrow will be a perfect day." Amora smiled, trying to believe it. The night before the wedding, she and her bridesmaids stayed at the small hotel by the market. The plan was to rest and get ready early in the morning. But Amora couldn't sleep. She wanted to see Ifeanyi, to calm her nerves, to pray together one last time before saying "I do." That was why she picked up the small basket of groundnuts and walked quietly down the corridor to room 207. She didn't know that behind that door, her world was about to break in two. When dawn came, the sun rose beautifully over Umubi, the kind of golden morning that looked like a blessing. The church was full by 10 a.m., and everyone waited for the bride and groom. No one knew what had happened the night before. Ifeanyi stood at the altar, his face pale but steady. Chika sat in the front pew, head bowed, tears glistening but quickly wiped away. Then Amora entered. Her white gown shimmered in the light, her veil covering her face. But her steps were slow, measured, like someone carrying both grace and thunder in her heart. As she reached the altar, the priest smiled warmly and began the vows. When it came to her turn, Amora lifted her veil. Her eyes were calm, too calm. She began, her voice steady but soft. "Before I answer, Father, there's something I must say." The crowd stirred. Mama Uju leaned forward, sensing something was wrong. Amora turned slowly toward the guest, then to her sister. And what she said next made the whole church gasp. The church fell silent. Not even a baby whimpered. The only sound was the ceiling fan creaking above, turning slowly as if afraid to break the tension. Amora stood tall at the altar, her white gown gleaming under the light. Her eyes, red but dry, shifted from Ifeanyi to Chika. "I will not marry this man," she said clearly. The words sliced through the air like a blade. A loud murmur rippled across the pews. The priest blinked, unsure what to do. Mama Uju covered her mouth with her hands. "Yezu. What is she saying?" Ifeanyi took a step forward. "Amora, please, don't do this here." But Amora lifted a hand to stop him. "No. Here is where I must do it, before God, before my family, and before everyone who came to witness truth and love." She turned to the congregation, her voice trembling but firm. "Last night, I went to see my groom. I thought I was visiting the man who would be my husband. But what I saw was something that broke me." The guest leaned forward. Someone whispered, "N." What did she see? Amora's gaze fell on Chika, whose face was now buried in her palms. "I saw him," Amora continued, "and my own sister, in a way no bride should ever see before her wedding." A collective gasp filled the church. Aunties clutched their headscarves. One of the choir ladies fainted quietly in the back row. Ifeanyi dropped his head. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. Mama Uju staggered forward, her wrapper loose at the waist. "Amora. Chika. What kind of shame is this?" Chika stood suddenly, her eyes wet. "Amora, I'm sorry. I swear it wasn't meant to happen. It was a mistake." Amora turned to her, her face calm in a way that frightened everyone more than anger ever could. A mistake is when you step on someone's foot. Not when you lie with their groom the night before their wedding. The priest stepped between them gently. "My daughter, please, this is the house of God. Let's calm down." Amora smiled sadly. "Father, I am calm. I am calm because I have decided something important." She turned back to Ifeanyi. "I won't curse you. I won't fight you. You taught me something valuable, that love without honesty is poison. You drank from it, and so did I." Then she did something no one expected. Amora reached for Chika's hand. The entire church held its breath. "I forgive you," she said softly. "Both of you." Chika froze, tears streaming down her face. You forgive me?" "Yes," Amara whispered. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing myself so I can heal." Then she turned to the priest. "Father, I will not marry today. But I will not shame God with anger either. Please, let the choir sing." The priest, still in shock, nodded slowly. "Let the choir sing," he said weakly. And as the choir began to hum, "It is well with my soul," Amara stepped down from the altar, not as a bride, but as a woman reborn. The crowd parted for her like water. Some wept. Some whispered. Others clapped softly in respect. She walked out into the bright sunlight, her veil fluttering in the breeze. Children watched as she passed, and one little girl, her student from school, ran up to her with a small white flower. "Auntie Amara," the girl said shyly, "you still look like a queen." Amara smiled, taking the flower. "Thank you, my dear. Queens don't lose their crowns because someone else dropped theirs." She kept walking, down the road, past the market, past the mango trees, until she reached the stream where she and Chika used to play as children. There, she sat on a flat rock, looking at her reflection in the water. Behind her, footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn, she already knew who it was. "Amara," Mama Uju's voice quivered. "My daughter, what will people say?" Amara turned slowly to face her mother. "Let them say what they will, Mama. People always talk. But one day, they'll stop talking and remember what they saw, that I chose peace over pain." Mama Uju sighed, tears rolling down her cheeks. "You are stronger than I thought." Amara smiled faintly. "I learned from you." Weeks passed. The scandal was the talk of Umubi for days, then slowly faded as new gossip replaced it. Chika moved to another town to live with an aunt, ashamed but trying to start anew. Ifeanyi left soon after, no one really knew where he went. But Amara stayed. She returned to her school, teaching children again, smiling more each day. Sometimes, people would see her walking by the stream in the evenings, humming softly, and they would whisper, "That's the bride who forgave the unforgivable." One day, after class, she found a note on her desk. It was written in neat handwriting. "You don't know me, but your courage gave me strength to leave my own broken engagement. Thank you for reminding us what dignity looks like." Amara smiled as she folded the note. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. The sun dipped low, painting the town in gold. Somewhere in the distance, children laughed, drums played, and life, as it always did in Umubi, went on. And though her wedding never happened, everyone knew that day at the altar, Amara became something greater than a bride. She became a story. A story the elders would one day tell their daughters, about the woman who walked into heartbreak, stood tall in truth, and left the altar with her crown still shining.